Okay, good Davach, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for starting the week with us. As I said in the Chumash here, one of the lessons of Kaddish Li Kol B'char is that Hashem wants us that all the starts should be with special holiness. So the start of the week, at the very beginning of the week, to come and to learn Torah together, two blat with a olam, is what could be better? What? Who?
Raz's husband.
Okay, if it is, then we learn for my uncle Hilu, a Holocaust survivor. His neshama should have a big aliyah. We're dedicated by Shalom Fogelly, Nishmas Yaakov Zeb ben Yodaya, Yerifka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tziv Yamirim Bas God, Yosef ben Tzion ben Yaakov Zev. We're dedicated by Baruch Ian, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKoyen, Lefu Shalema for Liba Bas Anya. We learned for a great shidduch quickly for Batya Basara. We learn for the physical, spiritual, and emotional health of Yosef Shmuel ben Miriam, and we learn co-sponsored for all those that are waiting children should be healthy mommy, healthy baby, and especially for Ariel and Lior Bas Elza Rivka, they should have healthy mommy, healthy baby. We'll learn for Shalema for Moshe Meir ben Esther Fradel. We're going to start now. Yochai ben Ruchama. We're going to start now at the new Mishnah on the bottom of Daf Yud Aleph Amud Beis. The new Mishnah on the bottom of Yud Aleph Amud Beis. So let me remind you, this is actually the exact same ideas that we learned in Zvachim, and we apply it now to Menachos. The idea is that pigel, which is an Issachar, is when you do one of the four avodas, having in mind to eat something after its proper time, or to smoke it up after its proper time. So chutzlas manai is pigel, and it's an Issachar. If you have in one of the four avodas a machshava of chutzla mekaimai, to do it outside of its place, it's puzzle, but there's no karas. Now, in Zvachim, the four avodas were shchita, kabbalah, hilacha, and zrika. By Menachos, the four avodas are the kemitza, then kiddush bekeli, sanctifying in the keli, hilacha, taking it to the southwestern corner, and the aktara, smoking it up. So an example of pigel would be if you do the kemitza having in mind to eat the shirayim after its allowed time, or having in mind to smoke it up after its allowed time, that would be pigel, and that would be an Issachar. On the other hand, if you do it with a machshava to eat it or smoke it up chutzla mekaimai, outside of its place, that's puzzle ve'ein by karas. Now, another detail that we're going to learn over here in this Mishnah, which is important to understand, is that in order for it to be pigel, the only thing that you do wrong is the machshava of pigel, having in mind to eat it or smoke it up chutzlas manai. If you adulterate it with another machshava psul, like chutzla mekaimai, or in the case of a minchas chayte and a saita, a machshava shaloi lishma, that causes it not to be anymore an Issachar. It's only an Issachar if the only thing you did is a machshava of chutzlas mani, and everything else you did k'mitzvasai. But if you adulterated it with another wrong thought, that demotes it from an Issachar to just plain Aser. Rabbi Yehuda will argue at the end of the Mishnah, and Rabbi Yehuda will say that it depends which machshava was first. If the machshava is chutz l'zmanai first, that locks it into pigel, even if you have a wrong machshava after that. However, if the machshava first is a different psul, like chutz l'mekayma or shaloi l'shma, then even if you have a machshava of chutz l'zmanai afterwards, it doesn't become pigel. The Rabbanan hold it makes no difference whether you had a chutz l'zmanai in mind first or the chutz l'mekayma first. If it's not purely only chutz l'zmanai, it's adulterated with another psul like chutz l'mekayma or shaloi l'shmai. It's only pasul, but there is no karas. And now let's learn the Mishnah inside. Again, if you're just joining us, we are at the bottom of Daf Yud Aleph Amud Beis. Hakaimetz es hamincha. Let's say Marshall takes a kmitza of a mincha. Remember, there's 4 avodas: kmitza, kiddush bekeli, halacha, and haktara. So let's say Marshall takes a kmitza of the mincha, having in mind lechol shireha bechutz, to eat the remnants outside, or kazayas mishireha bechutz, or a kazayas of the remnants outside, or lahakter kaimtza bechutz, or to smoke up the kmitza outside, or kazayas kaimtza bechutz, or kazayas of the kmitza outside, or lahakter levainta bechutz. That's another thing that's smoked up, the frankincense outside. But remember, a machshavas chutz is only pasul. It's not pigel. It's not karas. And that's how the Mishnah starts. In all these cases, pasul be'ein by karas. However, if Marshall really goes, the distance, because Mark just showed up, so Marshall really goes the distance, and he has the worst kind of machshava. The worst kind of machshava is to eat the shiraim or smoke it up after its expiration date, after its time. If he has in mind lechel shirel l'macher, to eat the remainder on the morrow, because the mincha could only be eaten that day and that night until chatzais. If he has in mind to eat the remnants tomorrow, or kazayas mishirel l'macher, or kazayas of the remnants tomorrow, lahakter kaimsa l'macher, to smoke up the kmitza tomorrow, or kazayas mekaimsa l'macher, or lahakter levaina l'macher, or to smoke up the frankincense on the next day. That already, since it's a machshava of chutz l'zmanai, that's pigel v'chayav and oleh karas. And now the Mishnah says, Zaklal, this is the general principle, kol hakaimitz. Now it mentions all 4 avodas. Remember, just like by carbon, the 4 avodas were shchita, kabbalah, halacha, and zrika. So by mincha, the 4 avodas are kmitza, matan bekeli, halacha to the southwest corner, and then haktara. So Zaklal, top line of Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, learning to be mekayim the mitzvah dibarta bam la'asais nachas ruach liyotzreinu. Zaklal, kol hakaimitz, whoever takes the kmitza or nois in bekeli, or puts the kmitza in a keli, hamelech, or brings it to the southwest corner, hamaktir, or smokes it up, lechol davar shedarka lechol, to eat something that's normally eaten, or lahaktir davar shedarka lahaktir, smoke up something that's normally smoked up, chutz l'mekayma, outside of its place, that's only a psul, pasul vein by karas. Chutz l'zmanai, but if Marshall goes all the way and he has in mind to do it after his time, that's already pigel v'chayav and olav karas. But now, as I explained in the preface, now the Gemara adds a caveat. The Mishnah adds a caveat, and that is the only time Marshall's chutz l'zmanai will be an issa karas is if that's the only untoward thought that he had. But if he adulterates in another untoward thought, like chutz l'mekaymo, or by a minchas chayte or a saita shaloi l'shmai, that takes away the pigel. It's only pigel if he did chutz l'zmanai and nothing else wrong. As long as he did everything else right. Ketzad, what's an example where he does everything else right? Ketzad karav amata k'mitzvasai. Kamatz b'shtika, he did the kmitza quiet. He didn't have anything wrong. Then Nasa Mekeli V'Eilach V'Hikter, then he put it in the keli, he took it to the southwest corner, he smoked it up with a machshava of chutz l'zmanai, to eat the shiraim or to smoke it up after its time. Or if he had the untoward thought to do it after its time, with the Kemitza, and then he did the rest quietly. Nasa Mekeli v'oilach v'ikter b'shtika. He put it in the keli, he took it to the southwest corner, and he was makta without any further thought. Oh, if he did everything wrong, he did it all chutz l'zmanai. Zeu shekarav amata k'mitzvah. So that's a case where he didn't have any other adulterated wrong thought, and therefore he would then, if you eat it, you would be chayiv kares. That's pigel, and you would be chayiv kares. What's an example where Marshall adulterates it with another foreign thought, which demotes it from an iser kares? Keitzad loy karav amata k'mitzvah. What would be an example where he doesn't do everything else correct? Oh, first it's a potpourri. First he does the Kemitza with a machshava to do it outside of its place. That already destroys the possibility that it should be an Issachar. Because he already had in mind another thought. He had in mind to eat it outside of its allowed place. The Menachos Daf, it has to be eaten in Zara. He plans to eat it in the pizza shop in Yerushalayim. And then Nasim Bekeli Vailach Vehikter Chutzl's Mani. Then he did the rest with a machshava of pigel. Or he did the Kemitza with a machshava of pigel. But then Nasim Bekeli Vailach Vehikter Chutzl Mekaimai. But then he put it in the keli. He brought it to the southwest corner. He did the smoking up with a machshava of Chutzl Mekaimai outside of its place. So he didn't do the rest k'mitzvasai, or if he did everything with just chutz mekayim, he should come and snasa mekayim v'oilach v'hikter chutz mekayim. So he didn't have a machshava pigel at all. Zeu shaloi karav amata k'mitzvasai, and there wouldn't be kares; it would only be a iser. Now there's another example of an untoward thought that would take it down a peg from being an iser kares. Minchas chayte and minchas knais, which is disqualified with machshava shaloi l'shmai. Minchas knais is the minchas saita. She comes on shaloi l'shman. Marshall first has a thought that he's going to do it shaloi l'shman, not for the proper designation. That's it. It can never become pigel anymore. Even though Nasim Mekeli Vayilach Victor Chutzl's Mana, even though when he was Mekadosh in the Keli and he took it to the southwest corner and he smoked it up, he had a machshava to eat it after its time, he already adulterated it with the machshava shaloi l'shmai. Or if he started off with a machshava of eating it after its time, but then he adulterated it by Nasim Mekeli Vayilach Victor shaloi l'shman. He put it in the Keli, he brought it to the southwest corner, he smoked it up with a machshava of shaloi l'shman. Or if he only did it shaloi l'shman, obviously that's not going to be pigel. Or he should come into Nasim Mekeli Vayilach Victor shaloi l'shman. Zeu shaloi karav amata k'mitzvah. So he didn't do everything else correctly besides the thought of chutzl's mani, so there's no iser kares. Here's another example. If Marshall has in mind when he does the kmitza, lechel kezayis b'chutz, to eat a kezayis outside or kezayis amacher, and a kezayis after its time, it's not going to be pigel because he mixed it already up with a kezayis of outside. Or even if he did it the other way, kezayis amacher, kezayis b'chutz, or if he mixed it. He had in mind kachatzi zayis b'chutz, kachatzi zayis amacher. That'll eat a half a zayis outside and a half a zayis tomorrow, or kachatzi zayis amacher, kachatzi zayis b'chutz. Since he didn't have in mind, that's obvious, he didn't have in mind a full zayis for after its time, or where he had in mind a mixture of both. So then, pasal v'ein by kares. Now, I told you when I gave you the introduction to the Mishnah, the Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. And he disagreed in Masechta Zvachim also. Rabbi Yehuda holds that once Marshall locks it in to be pigel, with a machshava of chutzl's manai, he cannot anymore remove it by having another wrong thought. So if he did the kemitza with a machshava to eat the shirayim or smoke it up chutzl's manai, even if he did the rest of the avodas with a machshava of chutz mekaymai or a machshava by minchas chayte, minchas knai shaloi l'shma, it remains with the Yisr Kares. He holds that if you start with chutz l'zmanai, you lock it in. Let's see Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda zak klal. Im machshavas hazman kodma l'machshavas hamakam. if Marshall first had a machshava to eat it after its time, and only then had a machshava to eat it outside, pigel v'chayav and of karas, because once it's pigel with his first machshava, you cannot take away the iser karas. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. In machshavas hamakom kadmol the machshavas hazman, but if first he had in mind to eat it chutz mekaymai, or he had in mind by minchas chayte, minchas knas to do it shaloi l'shma, and then he had a machshav of chutz hazman, then it doesn't become karas because it's adulterated. Pasal ve'ein by karas. The Rabbanan disagree. The Rabbanan say even if you start with a machshava pigel, but if you adulterate it afterwards with another machshava like chutz mekaymai or by minchas chayte, minchas knas shaloi l'shma, it loses its iser karas. Chacham Oimrim zev is a puzzle, whether you started, whether or not, it's puzzle, ve'ein by karas. Once you adulterate it, there is no karas.
Can I ask a question before we start tomorrow?
Yes.
The Rav said that if he, at one point the Rav said if he ate, then there will be karas. What if he doesn't, what if he never eats?
No, the only iser karas is eating it. The act is not karas. The act just disqualifies the carbon.
Okay.
It's the same thing with the iser karas of noiser. Leaving it after its time, there's no karas. Eating it when you leave it after its time, that's where there's karas. Now, if you remember, we learned that there's an opinion that if let's say Yitzi took the Kemitza and then some of the Shirayim went missing. A wind came and blew some of the remainder away. So we said, even though the Shirayim is chaser, Yitzi still could be makdir the Kemitza, but since the Shirayim was chaser, you're not allowed to eat the Shirayim. So although you could finish the Avodah, you could be makdir the Kemitza, but since the Shirayim was not intact, the Kemitza doesn't matter it to be eaten. So now the Gemara declares, bringing Marshall into the case, if let's say Marshall did the Kemitza, having in mind, or let's say after the Kemitza was done, Marshall, it could be the Kemitza. Marshall does the Kemitza with a machshava of eating it after its time. Pure pigel machshava. Then some of the Shirayim went missing. So we said that we're makdir it, but it can't be eaten. Is that haktorah enough to cement the iser karas? Or do we say since the Shirayim can't be eaten, it's not enough to cement, it's not considered that we're matir k'mitzvasai, it's not enough to cement the iser karas? And the Gemara says that this is one question, and a related question is that normally when you smoke up the Kemitza, the Isser Me'ila goes off. The Isser of trespass goes off. Over here, where some of the Shirayim is missing, when you're maktir the Kemitza, is it enough to take off the Isser Me'ila? So now let's see the Gemara inside. Ibaylahu. L'divrei ha'omer shirayim shechasru ben Kemitza l'aktar. According to the opinion that says that when some of the remainder went missing between the Kemitza and smoking it up, still makdir kaimitz aleim, we allow you to smoke up the Kemitza even though some of the Shirayim was missing. But the kaimelon, since some of the Shirayim was missing, there is a fallout. The kaimelon, the oisan Shirayim asurim ba'achila. In other words, it's not scot-free, but since there was some of the Shirayim missing when you smoked it up, it's not enough to be matir the shirayim to be eaten by the kahana. The question is, if Marshall did the kmitza with a machshava to eat it after its time. Now we said that you have to do everything else correctly. Since over here you're not going to be able to eat the shirayim, will that lock in the Isser Pigel on this, that there should be kares? Mao de tihani luhu aktora lemikveinu bepigel, to lock in the Isser kares, and does this aktor, which doesn't allow it to be eaten, is it enough to take off the Isser Mila? V'lepkinu midei Mila. So now, we have a machlokes Rav Huna and Rava. Rav Huna, afilu Rabbi Akiva, the Amar Zrika my eles liyotze, that Zrika helps, even if you took the carbon outside of its permitted area. Hani mili yotze, the isei be'ene, that's because the carbon is intact. Upsul machmas davarachu, it's just an external psul. Aval chisaron, but where some of it is missing, the psula de gufehu, that's a problem in the actual mincha, that it's flawed, some of it's missing. Loy mahani le'aktar, the aktar won't help in order to lock in the pigel, and the aktar won't help to take off the meila. While Rava says to the contrary. Amalei Rava adarabba, adarabba. Afilu Rabbi Eliezer the Amar ein zrika mo'elas liyotze, that zrika doesn't help when you take something outside. That's because you took it outside of the temple. Hani mila yotze the leisa b'fnim, you took it out of the temple. Here the mincha is in the temple. Some of it is missing, but it's in aval chisaron. The isei b'fnim. Mahanya le'aktar, the aktar will help, so that if Marshall had an iser machshava of chutz l'zmana, it will lock it in as pigel, and it's enough to take off the iser mila. Now over here, Rava brings this is a very this is a very sensitive proof. I think I should talk about it with you outside before we learn it inside. You see, our Mishnah says if you take a kmitza, Marshall takes a kmitza, having in mind to eat the shirayim outside, or having in mind to have a kazayas of the shirayim outside. Right? That's enough also, right? If he has in mind, does the kmitza having in mind to eat it after its time, or a kazayas after its time? Now that's, but when it says a kazayas, it could mean something else also. It could mean if you put it in the keli, having in mind to eat a kazayas of shirayim, because that's all that's left. The rest went missing. So, if you say that, then that's like Rava, who says that even if some of it's missing, it could still be locked in to be pigel. So Rava says, let's see it inside. Amar Rava mina aminola. How do I know that even if some of the shirayim is missing, when you makter it, it locks it in to be pigel? The Tanah and Akaima says mincha. If Marshall takes a kmitzah the mincha lechol shirah b'chutz to eat the remainder b'chutz, or kazayas mishirah b'chutz, or a kazayas of the remainder outside. Now that's the way our Mishnah has it. Now we know that besides Mishnayos, there's also Brisa. Brisa means outside, from the Lashon of bra. Bra means outside. And the Brisas have sometimes deviations from the Mishnah. Now, the Tani Reb Chia, HaKaimer says HaMincha, if he takes a kmitza to eat the shirayim outside, v'loi Tani oy kezayis. And he doesn't say or a kezayis. Now, why doesn't he say it? It's also pigel if he has in mind to eat a kezayis after its time. It's also possible if he has in mind. But you see, by the kmitza, it can't mean that he does the kmitza whether there's all of the shirayim or only a kezayis of the shirayim. By kmitza, that's no good, because everybody agrees that by the kmitza you have to have the full shirayim. If you only have a kezayis, you can't do the kmitza. Everybody holds that. The other avodas, it could be even if the shirayim are missing, but the kmitza, you can't do the kmitza unless you have the whole amount. So, therefore, the reason why Rebbe Chia doesn't say oy kezayis, it's because he holds that by the other things, the kiddush bekeli, the halacha, the aktara, it could be even if only a kezayis is left from the shirayim. So the Gemara says, "My time aloi tani oy kezayis, lav kegain shechosu shirayim, where the shirayim is missing the kabbalu akazayis." And the kevan, the mamatan keli behilach ubaktorah loy masnilei. He didn't want to say it by matan keli hilach and aktara that there's only a kezayis left, and the reason is because over there, itaka would work, because if the shirayim is chasu after the kmitza, you could do the rest of the avodas, but then he would have to say the same thing by the kmitza. O kezayis ashirayim, says the Gemara, or a kezayis of the shirayim, meaning that all that's left is a kezayis of the shirayim. He didn't want to say that because b'kmitza nami lechol shirayim loitani oy kezayis, because by the kmitza he can't say or if there's only a kezayis left, because if there's only a kezayis left, you can't do the kmitza. There, you can only do the kmitza if you have the whole shirayim. But by the other avodas, even if you only had a kezayis left, you still would be able to do the aktara, and it says in the Mishnah it would be pigel. The Ketani Sefer, pigel v'chayol of the law of Taurus. So you see that even if there was only a kezayis left of the shirayim, when you do the aktara, it locks it in, alma mahanilu aktara, to lock it in as pigel. So Abaye says, well, maybe that's not why Reb Chia left out oy kezayis. Maybe he left out oy kezayis because he holds, like the opinion of Rebbe Eliezer, that the only time it's going to be puzzle is if you have in mind to eat the whole shirayim l'chutz. And the only time it's going to be pigel is if you have in mind to eat the whole shirayim after its time. He holds a kezayis is not enough. That's why he leaves out all kezayis. Hamani Rebbe Eliezer, he did not kaimitz v'alvana, the kaimitz and the frankincense v'aktiris, or minchas kahanim, which is totally burnt, or minchas kain Mashiach, which is also totally burnt, or minchas nesachim, which is also totally burnt. Shehikriv me'achas me'em kezayis b'chutz chayiv. That if he offers out a kezayis outside your chayiv, Rebbe Eliezer says a kezayis is not enough. It's only if you offer the whole thing. Rabbi Eliezer Paiter Achi Yaakov es Kulai. So therefore, according to Rabbi Eliezer, it would only be if you have in mind to eat the full amount outside. That's why it doesn't say kizayis. So Kevin the Baktoris Kamitza Lemasni Le Oikimayis Oikizayis Mikumsa Bechutz. Since you can't say it had in mind to smoke up a kizayis on the outside, because he holds that you're only chayiv if you smoke up the entire thing on the outside. So b'shirayim nami loy masne loy oikizayis. So that's why by the shirayim it doesn't say oikizayis either. It's no raya to Rava's proof. But says the Gemara, but wait a second. If it's going according to Rabbi Eliezer, it shouldn't have in mind. It shouldn't say that he had in mind to do the kmitza outside. According to Rabbi Eliezer, you're only pigel if you have in mind to do both the kmitza and the levina, because he holds ein mefaglim b'chatzi mater. Rabbi Eliezer hay la'akter kainza. It shouldn't say to smoke up the kmitza la'akter kainza ulevainta mebayle. It should say the kmitza and the frankincense, because according to Rabbi Eliezer, if you offer only one of them on the outside, chayiv. But Rabbi Eliezer says you have to do both. Says, well, no, it could be Rabbi Eliezer, but it could be talking about a minchas chayte that doesn't have levina. Says the Gemara, you're going to say that the Mishnah is only talking about minchas chayte. Says Gemara, the reason why he doesn't mention levina, because according to Rabbi Eliezer, you have to have in mind to do also the levina b'chutz. The reason why he doesn't mention levina is because it's talking about minchas chayte. Remember, minchas chayte is not mahudr, so it doesn't have oil and levina. Rabbi Eliezer. However, Rava has a change of heart. It's not true, my whole position. I told you that even if the shirayim is missing, then smoking up, even if the shirayim is missing, smoking it up will lock it in to be pigel. He says it's not true. Why? Because you'll see by the lechem aponim it doesn't work that way. The Tanya, Kodesh Kedoshim Hi, it's holy. Shem nifrsa achas mehen chaloiseh. If one of the loaves, the 12 loaves, crumble, kulam psulais, they're all possible. Now that implies only if they break. Hoyotzasa, if one of them is taken out, hani di ikigavoik sheres. Those that are inside are kosher. So who is this going like? Man shematle de zrika me'elas liyaitze. Who holds that the zrika helps for yaitze? So here also the burning of the bazichin of the spoonfuls would help even if it's taken outside. Rabbi Akivi, the Ka'amar, yet he says that nifris alay, that if one of the loaves break, so it's chaser, it's no good. So you see that even though we hold that yaitze is good, but chaser is worse than yaitze. Remember, because we said yaitze, the whole thing is intact. But where it's not intact, we said that all the loaves are no good. So then that would be a lot like Rava. We would say that if the shirayim are deficient, it doesn't lock it in to be pigel, and it doesn't remove the esamila. So the Gemara says, I don't like your diak. Your whole thing is based on making a diak that it says only if it crumbles, it's no good. But if it's taken out, it is good. Maybe not. Maybe if it's taken out, it's also no good. Does it say that if it's taken out, it is good? No. Maybe if it's taken out, one of the loaves is taken out, all the loaves are also no good. What's the diak if it crumbles but something else is good? Dilmahan nitmeis. If one of them becomes tamei, hana kasheris, the rest are good. You know why? Because the tzitz is maratza for tumah. The foreplate, one by the Kohen Gadol, is maratza. My timer, the maratza tits.
How would it become tummy?
Aval yotzas, huh?
How would it become tummy?
A kohen came in who was tummy. Aval yotzas loy. But if it was taken out, then it's possible that the rest of the loaves would not be good. So this is going according to Rebbe Eliezer, who holds that Zrika doesn't help for Yaitse. Da'amein Zrika me'elas Yaitse. But Eino Chanami, Ubedinu di ba'ilei misteinami yotzas. And really it should say that not only if it crumbles, but also if it's taken out, the rest of the loaves are disqualified. That which it says where it broke, hakamash malon dafilu nifrasa, even if it broke, where it's inside the isei b'fnim, still the other loaves are disqualified. It doesn't help the burning up of the frankincense of the spoonfuls to permit the other loaves. However, Rabbi Kiva, but according to Rabbi Kiva, the Amma Zrika may eles liyaitse, that Zrika helps when something is taken outside. He might also hold, like Rava's position, even if some of the shiraim is missing, the smoking up helps in order, number one, to remove the isamila, and order number two, that if Marshall had in mind when he did the kmitza to do it chutzlas manai, the smoking of it up is enough that it's considered that it's matak mitzvasai and locks in the isur karis of pigel. I think we're going to change the channel here now.